Morning, everybody.
Good
So nice to
morning.
see you all. Good morning, Erica. Thank you for your text message yesterday. Good morning, Declan Curtin. Nice to see you. Good morning, Amber. Hi, Karen. Thank you for joining. All right. As everybody rolls into our space, why don't we continue to build community? And Jaren, if you wouldn't mind going to the next slide. It's been about a month since we were together because of all of the snow delays and cancellations and blizzards. And here we are finally turning the corner into spring. But as we dive into today's content, we'd love for you to just introduce yourself in the chat. Say hello, what is your role, your district, and what you're hoping to learn today about attendance efforts at the secondary level. We have, as always, Jay Brown is joining us from CSDE. So nice to see you this morning, Jay. And thank you to our partners at Ed.Advance and to our presenters and to all of you, the participants, building this community around this important work. My name is Caroline Calhoun. I am a professional learning and attendance specialist at Ed.Advance, which is the Regional Education Service Center in the Northwest region of the state. I am joined by my colleagues Dahlia and Jaren, supporting all things content and tech in this work. Our CSDE attendance lead, Kari Sullivan Custer, is double booked this morning, but she should be on in about half an hour to join the conversation. So thank you all for being here, and let's go ahead and go to our next slide. So as always, we like to share with you all some highlights and happenings across the state to keep you apprised of what is current. And new this year, you may know there is a student support series offered by CSDE in collaboration with DCF. This is a wonderful series that actually enables clinical staff to earn continuing education credit by attending these sessions. The next one is coming up on March 19th. It's all about how to support our anxious students and really practical strategies for schools. The April session is about behaviors and emotional regulation. And then in May, they wrap the series with a heavier topic about youth suicide prevention and really how to recognize and respond to those students at risk. So we encourage you to sign up for that. Registration is open and the link is provided there for you. This is a free series. They've had amazing attendance at these sessions and really excellent speakers and experts from across the state coming together in conversation. So that's an important upcoming series for you to join. Let's go to our next slide, Jaren. And each year, the Connecticut School Counselor Association hosts their annual conference. It's coming up in May at Trinity, and their registration is open in mid-March. So it's not open quite yet, but we encourage everybody to check that out if that falls into your bucket of work. Next slide, please. And in the same vein of conferences, the National Assembly for Family Engagement in Education, which I know many of you are tied into, they are hosting their annual conference in San Diego this October. They actually have a hybrid setup. So if you perhaps don't have the budget to fly to California to participate in this conference, you can participate virtually. And then they have some days that are just in person and a hybrid format. So they have calls for proposals open right now that closes on March 18th. So if you have a bright spot, something to do with family engagement, to highlight at the national level, please feel free to see what you can do about getting a presentation slot at this amazing conference. And also, of course, you are welcome to register as an attendee. Next slide, please, Jaren. 2 Octobers ago, I was honored to present at the International Network for School Attendance Conference with Dr. Gemma Joseph Lumpkin, the chief of all family engagement and attendance in New Haven Public Schools. And this same organization is hosting their next conference in Spain this coming fall. And it's really an amazing conference. It focuses a lot on the research behind what's happening globally around attendance challenges. And it explores all sorts of perspectives on school attendance, and getting that international lens is really fascinating. So again, if anyone is interested in a conference that brings together lots of experts, that conference registration is open, and there's also a call for submissions open until April 15th. Next slide, please. All right, we are lucky today to have Emma Herdean back with us from Attendance Works, and we wanted to share that Attendance Works has some new health handouts that have just been published. These are all free, they are download friendly, they are in multiple languages. I've linked everything there for your reference. So as we head into the spring and think about our messaging to families, please check those out as a resource. Next slide, please, Jaren. All right, so Kari is double booked this morning at a meeting, but so much wonderful data to share with you all. The data drop when we look at January monthly chronic absence is really incredible. So Connecticut is seeing real success in improving student attendance, and this is thanks to all of the hard work from the participants on this call and across the state. So in January 2022, 129,377 students were chronically absent. And in January of this year, 2026, that number dropped to 78,692 students. So this means that 50,685 fewer students are missing too much school in Connecticut. And the statewide rate has improved from 26.1% to 16.6%, which is a huge improvement. And this is actually the best January attendance that Connecticut has seen since tracking began. And the progress really is reflective of the hard work of educators, student support teams, families, all of the community partners across the state. And while we celebrate this success, of course, nearly 79,000 students are still chronically absent. So our work continues. So this is sort of a celebration and a recognition that there is still hard work to do. But by focusing on prevention, these strong relationships we've built with our families, and early support for students, we can continue to accelerate this improvement in attendance. So one note Kari asked me to share with you all is to consider looking at your own data at the district level or school level from this same lens, looking at this trend across multiple years and looking at it for January 2022 all the way compared to 25-26. So really wonderful data, and we appreciate the hard work that everybody is doing to get those results. Thank you, Jaren. Let's go to our next slide. And that brings us to our presenters for today. We are so glad to have Emma back from Attendance Works. She is a senior fellow. She supports district and school level structures, best practice implementation to increase student attendance and engagement. And Emma brings with her deep expertise and experience working with nonprofit organizations, family literacy programs, traditional public and charter schools, as well as community partnerships. And Emma is based in the Detroit metro area with her family. She is fully trilingual. She volunteers in children and youth programs as well as with immigrant communities. So a whole host of expertise, and we're so happy to have you here with us this morning, Emma. And we would also like to welcome Principal Edward Singleton, who is joining us today from Roton Middle School in Norwalk Public Schools. And Principal Singleton is the head of school at Roton Middle School, where he recently led the institution to its official IB World School authorization in June 2025, which is a Herculean feat. He is a career educator, a UConn alumnus, and Edward holds advanced degrees in special education and administration, as well as a certification in executive leadership. So with over 20 years of experience spanning both teaching and administration in Stamford, Hamden, and Norwalk, Principal Singleton is dedicated to empowering his teachers, to ensuring that students exit middle school fully prepared to compete in a global society through rigorous transformative curricula. So we are so excited to spotlight Principal Singleton and your school today. And with that, I will pass the baton to Emma.
Thanks so much, Caroline and Jay and CSD, and really grateful to have this opportunity to engage with you today. Um, Please know that we want to have this presentation as both informative but also transformative. And we encourage you to engage in conversation, meaning that if a question comes up as we share about the work that we have just done in collaboration with CSDE, please put it in the chat so you don't forget. And then when we introduce Principal Singleton and he tells the story and the highlights of Roton Middle School, again, please feel free to think about your questions that you would want to ask him, and we'll have opportunities to engage in dialogue towards the end of our time together. So thank you again very much. So let's go to the next slide. And then one more. All right, so here's what we proposed for our time together today. I'll share a bit about the purpose of the Connecticut Bright Spots Project. We'll share a little bit about the findings, ongoing challenges, and then in the February 10th Talk Tuesday, my colleague Susan has talked about the local recommendations, and today I will address the state considerations that have come up in this research brief. And then the most interesting part of our conversation today will be the highlight of Roton Middle School, and so we'll hear lots of the insights and strategies and how Roton Middle School is really a bright spot in Norwalk. And then again, we'll have some opportunities for questions towards the end. So let's go to the next slide. We wanted to bring this back because we know that a state survey conducted by CSDE in 2023 of nearly 5,500 parents, in fact, found that health, mental health, and school safety concerns were the most significant drivers of student attendance, or I'm sorry, student absences. So recognizing this reality, improving student health and well-being became a key priority in the CSD's five-year strategic plan. And so with this in mind, the purpose of our work together, the collaboration between CSD and Attendance Works for the research project, where we highlighted four bright spots, was to identify successful strategies that could be scaled up to sustain and accelerate those reductions in chronic absence. And how could we not celebrate what we just heard Caroline speak about, the lowest chronic absence rate in January? So congratulations to all of you. You are the ones that do the hard work and you're the experts. And we want to encourage you to stay strong and stay the course. And you'll get to see even more results towards the end of the school year and into the next year, because you're really laying the foundation for all these processes to take shape. All right, let's go to the next slide. So, again, in our collaboration, CSD and Attendance Works, we engaged in a project to document lessons learned for four schools in Danbury, New Haven, Norwalk, and Waterbury. And we did this to learn because we identified that these are schools that have successfully improved attendance through a focus on student health, well-being, and safety. And then we used state data to identify these four exemplary schools. And particularly, we looked at their three-year trend. That was a downward trend, meaning that they were improving attendance and engagement and decreasing chronic absence. Next slide. All right, so these are the two guiding frameworks that we have used as foundation of our research brief. So the analysis of the lessons learned from these successful local efforts was informed by the conceptual frameworks of attendance works, the key ingredients of systemic change for reducing chronic absence, and then the national framework of the whole school, whole community, whole child. The most effective and sustainable approaches we know are data driven and are supported by strong district, school, and community leadership. So, these six key ingredients of change, especially when they work together in alignment with each other, support the systemic approach that really shapes the policy as well as practice. And then when we think about addressing the health, safety, well-being, just like CSD is prioritizing, we know that the whole school, whole community, whole child approach offers this excellent framework for understanding what's involved in addressing the health and well-being. So it really serves like a vision for how to advance aligned health and education policies in practice. Next slide. Apologies for my cough. So this slide talks a little bit about the findings from the Bright Spot brief. And while these are succinct in what you see, you'll get to hear more from Principal Singleton, and you get to read the brief once it's published in the spring. So just planting the seed to look for the brief to unpack all those examples and how maybe the bright spot could be inspirational to your schools and districts. So we found that shared responsibility and leadership was really a common theme across the 4 districts and schools that we observed. In this situation, the superintendent and principal played strong leadership roles, ensuring that everyone took responsibility for promoting student engagement and then that health, well-being, and attendance. And for us, that meant that it was strategically integrating student attendance and well-being into existing district efforts. So it's not a separate effort, but really integrated into what was already happening. And then we also noticed that shift from reactive to proactive practices that promote that well-being and that welcoming culture. We also noticed engaging all staff in adopting that whole school, whole community, whole child approach through consistent guidance and expectations. When it comes to that building capacity of school staff and community partners, we saw that districts and schools were taking a positive data-informed approach to advance that well-being and engagement and attendance through offering professional development for building administrators, for creating opportunities for staff to work together across different teams. And as I remember, an example from Roton Middle School, at grade level meetings, at your school, Mr. Principal Singleton, the teachers leaders shared information from the building leadership meetings, and then the building leaders also regularly attended grade level meetings to share information and really listen to staff that discussed those relevant topics. Another finding is that accessed actionable data. That meant that the districts ensured central office and building level staff had access to quality, actionable data that was essential to developing a consistent plan. So really paying attention to how we use the data that's actionable to inform the strategies or the interventions that are needed for individual or groups of students. Another finding was adopting positive engagement using this whole school, whole child, whole community framework. And this meant that the district and school leaders established training and protocols to support the creation of that welcoming and engaging school communities, really focused on improving student attendance and establishing stronger family engagement. And I saw that many of you who are on this call do work directly in schools that have immediate connections to that family engagement, to helping set up that positive, welcoming culture, climate. In the variety of roles that you have. One example is establishing mentoring opportunities. I'm going to go back to Roton Middle School because I remember that they offer my brother's keeper and my sister's keeper programs, and those promote student leadership opportunities and really access to community mentors. Celebrating with the community, relationships, relevance and rigor. We know drive student attendance and engagement, deepening the partnerships with students and families, really redesigning the physical space to be very engaging and fun, and enabling learning in the most effective way, and really investing in staff well-being. We saw that across all four schools. And the last finding that I wanted to bring up is that established strategic partnership to support student health and well-being. And please know that when we speak about student health, we mean physical and mental health. So when we when we looked at establishing strategic partnerships, we were looking at partnerships with city or county departments of health, aligning with school-based health centers, contracting with mental health providers, partnering with before and after school programs, a strong connection with the Department of Children and Families, and then partnering with local businesses and organizations. So these are just some of the highlights from the findings. In just a few minutes, I'm going to introduce Principal Singleton. Before then, I also wanted to share on the next slide the ongoing challenges. And with any with any project, challenges are part of it, right? So we wanted to just mention those as well. So ongoing mental health challenges was one of the challenges that was continued because we noticed that all leaders in these four schools spoke about the challenge of supporting mental health needs for families, students, and staff. And then an example was that in every one of the districts and schools, we heard about the need to hire more social workers and school counselors to address these needs. Another ongoing challenge is sustaining practices with staff turnover. So acknowledging the reality of shifts in staff is also a challenge. So in this reality, we know that the districts need to invest in training for the new staff, and then we also know that that requires additional resources to sustain those effective practices. So just acknowledging that is important. Then we also noticed balancing competing priorities. So that meant that administrators found that they must balance the need to initiate new practices with ensuring that the changes are energizing the work and not burdening the staff. And then also being very intentional about how we respond to negative impact of expanding deportations. And I'm glad to hear that CSD has provided guidance to the districts to address and know how to address that. So. And then one more thing that I wanted to share is the recommendations for state practice. So this on the next slide. So this is the set of three recommendations that our attendance works team came up with as a result of our site visits and observations and interviews with leadership and staff from the four schools in the Bright Spot project. So we are looking at advancing policies and protocols that promote that direct communication between medical providers and school districts. That means that a collaboration between medical providers and those districts is really vital to support student health well-being. Um, and then when the medical services are not based in a school, we notice that the services can be siloed. So the recommendation is that improved communication and stronger connections among the primary care practitioners, families and students and schools can really help address the causes and identify the solutions to chronic absence. Um, and then promoting increased data sharing between school districts and pediatricians or the nurse practitioners in the private practice and clinics. Is also something to pay attention to. So, to increase the communication and this coordinated response, CSD can promote increased secure and confidential data sharing between medical practitioners and school districts. That's really done with the guardian consent. And then the last recommendation for state practice is about building the capacity of health providers and educators to understand their respective systems. So that means that primary care providers and educators often work with the same group of students and families. So it would be very beneficial to strengthen communication and professional development and the guidance among educators, primary care providers, and families. So wherever we can identify the space and the capacity building to do that integration is great. So that means leading this work together and really focusing on strengthening that message and agreeing upon the common messaging expectations and our respective roles with aligning systems. So these are the three recommendations that we made for state practice. Again, if you're interested about local local practice recommendations, those are going to be available in the brief that will be published very soon. So look for that. Um, it is my pleasure now to introduce Principal Singleton. So we'll go to the next slide, who is, again, such an expert in education with deep roots in Norwalk and such expertise in education, special education. And so I wanted to introduce him and offer him the space to share a little bit about his school. And then we'll engage in a little bit of conversation. And again, just as a reminder, we encourage you to put your questions in the chat, and then we'll have an opportunity after Principal Singleton presents, shares about the highlights of Roton Middle School. We'll have an opportunity to engage in conversation towards the end of his presentation, and we'll also monitor the chat. So I know Caroline and Jaden and Dahlia will help with that. So, Principal Singleton, welcome.
Thank you.
It's a
Good
pleasure
morning.
to have you this morning.
Thank you.
Um,
I appreciate the opportunity to be invited to this forum. Thank you.
Jaden, let's go to slide 20. Let's skip the questions for now. And I wanted to, one more. And I wanted to give Principal Singleton an opportunity to spend just a few minutes to tell us about Roton Middle School vision, mission, a little bit about who are the students at your school, chronic absence. Tell us about your school.
Okay. Well, thank you. So I am the very, very proud principal of Roton Middle School. As you'll see in the slide, the opening slide, we have our mission and vision. As it was stated to you earlier, we are a newly authorized MYP middle years program for the IB World Schools. So when we've already as you would know, have always had a mission and vision, but we needed to cater that into the IB culture in the middle years program. So what our faculty, staff, our community partners, and parents for our mission, we came up with Roton Middle School. It was a caring, diverse community that celebrates every student. We cultivate an open-minded, inclusive, and principled environment focused on inquiry, risk-taking, and effective communication. Our rigorous, culturally rich curriculum prepares knowledgeable, balanced, and lifelong learners to thrive in a changing world. So you would see many of the IB learner profile attributes within that, as well as our vision. At Roton Middle School, our mission is to empower every student to excel through a rigorous, globally minded curricula that fosters academic excellence. Guided and supported by dedicated faculty, will cultivate holistic students, adaptable critical thinkers, compassionate leaders, and effective communicators. Through literacy, STEM, and intercultural learning, we prepare our students to meet the challenges of the 21st century and become principled, innovative, lifelong learners ready to contribute to a changing global society. So that's who we are in terms of our mission and vision, and a little bit about who we are in terms of demographically. Um, you can probably see that on the next slide. Okay. So we right now are 52%, sorry, 56.2% students who identify as Hispanic or Latino or Latinx. Those students who are identify as white Caucasian students are 23.4% of our student population. Our Black and African American students who are identified as Black and African American, 12% of our students. And our students of two or more races are 4.8% of our population as well. You can go to our next slide. All right. So, in terms of chronic absenteeism in our decline, as you might see, we have been below the state and Norwalk Public Schools for some time now. But I think our real shift has come over our most recent years, including last year, where we were well below at 11.9%. Underneath both Norwalk Public Schools and the state of Connecticut. There are some really stark and intentional things that we put in place that have, I believe, have helped us contribute to having students invest or reinvest, I should say, in coming to school, as well as our parents, letting them know the importance of being with us. At Roton Middle School, from day one, students, I should say, day one, our faculty members and staff members walk into our building. It is my honor to have them understand that we see ourselves as an extension to the home. We are clearly not in place of the home, but while the students are with us, we are overseeing and treating our students as in a very familial environment, which I think helps parents understand and gives them the encouragement to make sure that their students are well taken care of in their absence under our leaderships and with our guides to ensure that students are being academically educated as well. So I will get into a little bit more of what we did to help contribute to those stark declines in absenteeism as we proceed. So I'll go to the next slide, if you might. All right. So again, so here are some of our priorities that we have put in place in terms of how we identified what we needed to do to help students re-engage and reinvest in our community of learners. So again, we have a structure and data pillar that we made sure we changed our the way we saw homeroom and advisory. We made sure that homeroom advisory was an extension of period one. So if I have, let's, for all intents and purposes, say I had mathematics for period one, that mathematics class not only is just my class of my opening day, of the opening to my day, but in terms of how I'm accounted for attendance wise, that's my advisory and where my attendance is taken so that there is little transition. Sometimes students can get lost in the hustle and bustle of switching classes, especially when we know many of our sixth graders come to us from various different elementary schools. They may not have had to switch classes over time. So this is a way that we can lessen the movement in the building and give us greater accountability to where our students are. You'll also see that we have bi-weekly attendance meetings so that we are keeping abreast of who our students are and how they're doing attendance wise, because we definitely want to make sure that we have a good scope on why a student, if they may have a decline in their attendance, what are those mitigating factors that may have contributed to their decline. And then this gives us, our team, a little bit of thought process and ammunition to help us be able to meet with parents, meet with families, outside practitioners, so that we can get a better scope in how we're able to support the student while in school. Our next pillar, in terms of engagement and incentives, this is something that comes from our central office that I think has been great. They have invested in each middle school to give us a middle school wide sports program, which again it's a wonderful thing because this is a time where our students are able to work with organized sports. A lot of our students come to us, having played sports in their community, not necessarily something that's organized where you have a dedicated coach, you have a dedicated time to practice and a dedicated time to have an athletic competition. So I think that's something that has really helped our students. I have been worked with my coaches to incentivize the day where we celebrate whichever team is playing that day. The students dress up either with their jersey, sort of more so like what they would do in a high school, to kind of bring us like a pep rally state of mind, and to encourage our sports players as they go off to their athletic competitions. I'll get a little bit more into our monthly perfect attendance celebration, which we actually have one coming up. This is a celebration that we have just to encourage and recognize all our students from the prior month who has come to school on time, ready to learn, and not missed a day. So we're able to celebrate them. And it's not a way that we want to penalize anybody who had to miss a day, but we always go with the mindset and make sure that we promote with students that while you may have had to miss a day for whatever reasons, there's always another day or another month that you can be recognized for coming to school. We also have our partnerships that I will talk about a little bit later on. So I know Dr. Herdean talked about the mental health component. We have some great partnerships in a very new one that we just started with the Human Services Council. I'll talk about that a little bit more when we get deeper into some of the questions. And then again, in terms of collaborating with mental health providers, we work internally. We have a council and committee that we meet biweekly as well. We call it our mental health roundtable, so that we're making sure that we are reviewing all of our students and making sure that they have all the needs they have to be successful, given some of the mental health challenges that our students are facing, that there's no fault to their own. And so we go to the next slide. Okay, so this is pretty much all-encompassing slide that helps you to articulate, helps us articulate how we view our high-impact priorities for engagement and attendance. So it comes first with connection. I think I stated earlier that we come to school, we come to work, we come to the onset of the school year as these children are our children. We try to communicate ourselves. As you can see in the middle there, you might see a ram. So while some people, throughout the community, they have families, we have a ramily because we are the Roton Rams. We're mighty and we're strong. We have a very strong ramily to help support our students. So I'll get a little bit more into the what we do to help with our connections that you'll see in our connections and our support. And that work comes through our equity team. We're being led by two very good and very powerful leaders through the district that our superintendent has identified, with Dr. Ed.D. Fergus from Rutgers University and Paul Forbes. So we've been working at making these connections and supports through our equity team, making sure that all students are recognized. And because of that, you see the outcome is we get our students, they are celebrated and recognized for what they do. In terms of IB, we make sure that we have Citizens of the Month. We choose an IB learner profile that we like to celebrate, and they are nominated by their peers and their teachers, and then we select based on those nominations our monthly award winners for our IB learner profile Citizen of the Month. Okay, so that was a lot in a short amount of time, but I'm free to dive into some of those questions or any comments or questions that you may have to begin with.
Yeah, Principal Singleton. As people have listened to what you've shared, and you've done so much in the last few years to really build the trust, the immediate connection with students in middle school, right? As we think about that, I wanted to launch a couple of questions
Sure.
because these are really essential to what Susan and I have seen when we visited your school. So, one of the things that are unique about Roton Middle School is this focus on interactive learning opportunities,
Mhm.
really making that a focus for students and for staff. So if you want to, take about a minute to say, how do you work with staff to promote these learning opportunities that are interactive and fun and engaging for students?
So yeah, becoming an IB World School, it was a lot of work that we had to do. That actually helps you. I did a professional development on mindset as we launched into our year of trying to become authorized. It's all about mindset and perspective. If we, as our biggest cheerleader for our students, don't believe they can do it, they won't do it. So we had to push the envelope ourselves on how we thought about the teaching and learning process. We've become more project based in our learning, and we're still honing that skill. I'm not saying that we're 100% there because we're not, but we're trying to make sure that we are giving kids more opportunities to demonstrate their learning as opposed to regurgitate their learning. Um, I think one of the things that we did last year, and we're transitioning that over to this year too, were our 2 units that we had to do for interdisciplinary units that we are required to do by IB. So last year we did 2 sections. We did one on the Holocaust. So this was for our individuals and societies, which would be AKA social studies, and language and literature, AKA ELA. So we joined and married those two and collaboratively worked together to present what the Holocaust looked like. So we did that from a social studies, economics, resources, regional study perspective, as well as we combined that with some of the historical facts in the literature that we discovered in the diary of Anne Frank. We also looked about, again, later on in the school year, we looked at the water crisis and the water shortage in Africa. Again, we did that through the individuals and societies and the language and literature classrooms. And the texts that we used A Long Walk to Water and The Boy Who Harnessed the Wind to kind of marry those concepts. So the learning did not stop from this classroom to that classroom to this classroom. It was a bridging of that. And then we incorporated art through that as well. So students were able to discover art through the African diaspora in certain meanings, and then also of our art teacher that particular year. If I'm correct, our exchange program was with Nigeria, I believe. So it was really an all-encompassing learning how we as educators are able to see the likeness in our many various different content and subject matters. So I hope that
Yeah.
answered that question.
Wonderful. And I seem to remember lots of sharing from staff when we visited your school. And one of the things that really stood out to me is this approach of we view the work as we. instead of what
Yes.
I can do. And that's what you were building into the staff as you enable this targeted professional development that really strengthened the capacity of staff to make classroom learning engaging and fun. And to your point about IB, right? It's about inquisitive, culturally aware, and really understanding how students can be well-rounded individuals. So,
Right. And it's about making those connections
mhm,
outside of the classroom to the curriculum as well.
right. Another thing that's really unique about Roton Middle School is how you really work with students and empower these middle school students to learn to speak out about challenges and address a situation when they come up. How do you do that? What does it take to really support the students to speak out?
So, I think, again, I go back to the family Ramley concept of making sure that students know that they are loved and that they're cared about. For me, that's where it starts. If you don't have that, then middle school is just a weird, awkward time. I know it was for me. So it's just a time that, kids are self-discovering who they are as people. But again, for the weirdness, quirkiness that life brings, it doesn't mean that it has to be that in every aspect of where you turn. So we try to be very consistent and constant in our way how we present ourselves with our students. One of the things that we're looking at, and this is something that Paul Forbes is helping us with, it's called relationship mapping, making sure that every student has a go-to person, making sure every adult has a child that they're responsible for. And when I say every adult, I don't distinguish any type of role. If you're an adult in this school, you are a leader. You are a teacher in some capacity. One of the things that I've stated to my faculty, my staff, is like, we're all teachers. I don't care what your role is. Our custodians teach us how to keep our environment clean. They help us how to keep healthy. Our nurse, she helps us keep ourselves, like I said, healthy, helps us identify when we're not feeling as well. So we're being taught. Our cafeteria staff, they help us learn about nutrition. Everyone takes a role in the development of children at Roton Middle School. So that relationship mapping helped us identify those students who, like when we did the exercise maybe 2 weeks ago, but we recognized there were a couple of students who were new to the building that we hadn't had a chance to build a connection with yet. So that's now on our priority, on our radar, to make sure that those students are known and cared for and has a connection at least with one person, even though they may not have been with us for the entire school year. But upon arrival, they have someone that they know who to go to when they're in need. Another thing that we've been working on too is see something, say something. That comes from the Sandy Hook Promise. That's right here in the state of Connecticut. We hold that very near and dear. I say about September, maybe I want to say middle of September, we do an exercise every year. It says start with hello. There are a lot of students who, again, they come to a new school. Most of our sixth graders obviously are coming from elementary school, so it's totally new for them. But we have students who transition from different parts of the world, different parts of the state, come to Roton Middle School. So we have a whole week of just getting to know one another. Where we wear name tags. We have a specific designated time to make sure that you are getting to know people who you don't know, who didn't go to your previous schools, or we're welcoming our new students. We're diversifying our tables in the cafeteria, making sure that everyone feels welcome and wanting to be here. So we start the year off saying, see something, say something. If you see someone in need, then you go and you assist that person in need. There's no such thing as snitching or tattling here. It's all about care and concern and relationships and community building here. And next week we'll be jumping into, oh, is it next week or the week after, I believe, is it's the 23rd, I believe, is that's a See Something, Say Something week. So that'll be our spring celebration of celebrating how we communicate and become effective communicators with one another, and how we're doing things to ensure that when we have differences, we talk them out. I am proud to say I do not have many physical disagreements at my school at all. because we choose to use our words, and we choose to provide a forum for students to talk out their grievances. What we've learned by doing that is that there are a lot of information that has been shared, or a lack of communication for why kids are seeing disagreements. Or we're finding that there are some other contributors that may have added to something where disagreements come about. So we're pretty proud of how our students learn to communicate effectively with one another, and the care and concern that they show for one another. We just had our spring musical was this past weekend. We had 75 students who participated in the spring musical. 75 students there,
Wow.
and our student, it was very all inclusive of students, that demographics that you saw, which included our multilingual learners who are learning the language, and some of our special needs students who needed assistance. But there was something for everybody at this school.
And I remember that you're offering one of the after school or activities or extracurriculars chorus.
Yes.
Yes, so that makes sense, and it's so wonderful to hear the examples and really these intentional approaches and how you've restructured the engagement and the connection with students and families.
I'd like to jump in, like, again, for our musical performances,
Mhm.
for our music department, we have over 300 students that participate.
Oh wow, that's that's um that's an amazing testimonial. So I'm also looking at the clock. I know we have about 10 minutes.
Sorry.
No. This is great. I wanted to acknowledge that Libby put a question in the chat. So before I read that out loud and invite you, Principal Singleton, to respond, I really wanted to acknowledge the fact that the the power of the school collaboration comes from this revival of the attendance team. And just like you said, and I wanted to make sure that everybody heard, the nurse is part of your attendance team.
Yes.
Right. And that support is so critical to the students, especially for how we've heard you say that in the last few years, as you became principal, these behavior issues have gone away, or if there is a concern, that gets addressed right away by the caring adults through that relationship mapping. And everybody, please know that we've noticed, we've observed these examples as we engage in that site visit. And I remember, like, the security guard was also like the best buddy for some of the students, and sitting with them at lunchtime in the cafeteria to have just those 5 minutes that a student needed, or a group of students they just wanted to connect. So very intentional efforts from the adults in the school, caring adults in the school, to connect with any student that needs that extra time. So wonderful. So Libby's question says, can you explain a bit more about what's happening in your bi-weekly meetings, mental health meetings?
Yes.
Okay.
Right.
And she's
So,
asking about protocol and action steps.
okay, so what we do is, all of our students that have our mental health providers, we meet. I should say it's twofold. There's one mental health provider that is, we have in our school. That's an extension of a community agency. So we meet with her supervisors as well as the on-site provider. So, and we go over her caseload, and we talk about what the next steps are for the students, what the progresses are, what the challenges are, if the challenges are school based, if they're an extension of the home, do we need to invite the parent in? So we go over her caseload every other week. And then outside of her caseload, we also have invited the practitioner from the LINK program. The LINK program is for newly arrived students who are Spanish speaking, that who have arrived to our school. So because this person is bilingual, they're able to better communicate with our student and the parents. So on most occasions, so we've invited her to be part of that, as well as our mental health providers in our school, who are meeting for IEP and 504 purposes. So from there, we build and make sure that we are getting all the information that we need. And then from there, we make sure that if there's a parental concern that we need to bring them in on, we do that. If there are some outside other agencies that we might have to escalate some of our concerns to, we do that. But it's just giving us space and time to ensure that we are meeting their needs beyond what they're receiving during their counseling sessions. And then we all need to be on the same page, because there are personal days, there are illnesses that one practitioner might be out for or might have to attend to emergency, and we need to grab someone. You need to have that background and knowledge of what the children is, or what the child is dealing with, so that you can have an informed approach on how you, the methodology that you use to support.
Yeah, thanks for sharing. Um, I wanted to give voice to our participants. If there's another question that comes up, I could ask more things, but I've already heard so much about the success and just the amazing opportunities for students and families and partnerships and supports to staff at Roton Middle School. And again, lots of congratulations to you, Principal Singleton, for such intentional efforts, sustained efforts, right? We've seen that data speak volumes to your efforts. Um, Really wanted to give voice to anybody else that would like to ask a question in the chat or maybe come off mute in the last few minutes.
I can also add that I am really just grateful to my the superintendent and her cabinet for the support that they provide us. One of the things that I've been looking into over the course of time is having some sort of care closet that our school governance council has really taken off with. It started off as a care closet where we'll have active washing machines, washers and dryers, as well as we work with two partners, filling in the blanks, and Alpha Kappa Alpha sorority, and they provide food for our students who are food insecure. So that closet now has grown into some of the needs that parents may have for keeping clothes and laundry clean, as well as food nourishment. But now we're looking into seeing if, through the Human Services Council, if we can possibly have a school-based health clinic for all of our students, because we arrive to school sometimes with a very long list of seventh graders who are rising seventh graders who haven't had their physicals for the next school year. So this is just another way as we're trying to provide that wraparound service and support for our families in our community who go to our school.
Yeah, and just acknowledging and building on what you've said, Principal Singleton, those strategic partnerships are so important. They're so integral to how you run the school, and yeah, those efforts have really been evident. Let me ask one more question, and
Yes,
then
please.
maybe we'll wrap. I'll turn it back to Caroline. So with the extra school days at the end of the year due to snow,
Mhm.
what strategies are you putting in place to finish strong?
So I've that's a good question. I had just started looking into that myself. So I incentivize every month. So I think I'm just going to have to, when I say I incentivize every month I have some sort of a community-wide activity
Mhm.
for students, whether it's a volleyball game, tag game, we have a turkey trot, um, we have a dance-a-thon. What I'll do is I might skip May just to give us a little bit of a break, because I am being planning, and I might have something at the beginning of June and then at the end of June, so that we know that there's some parents who have maybe planned for vacations or other things they have to do. But then again, I still have a bulk of my students who will be here. I want them with me for as long as they need to be with me. So I want to make sure, let them know, like, we're still here, school's not over. But again, as we know, fighting against some of the sun and activities, I want to make sure that I incentivize to make sure the kids are showing up. One of the things that I know I talked to, we're doing is we have a Roton's Rams Day. So I want to make sure that I have that early in the school, ending of the school year, so that everyone participates. And then we're going to do a Grit Ninja activity for that end of the school year. So that'll be a little bit, and I get involved in those too, and I think they get a big kick out of that. So it's like a little Grit Ninja uh, uh, obstacle course. So I'll put that more towards the end of the year. And I think that will be my driving force to have as many kids show up for me as who choose to be here with us.
We look forward to some pictures and videos of
Oh,
that.
you'll get all of it.
Oh, thank you so much, Principal Singleton, for just not just the presenting of today's highlights of Roton Middle School, but just really the work that you and your team have diligently been doing to support the students and families in your community. So, at this time, I'm turning it back to Caroline to wrap us up.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Herdean, and thank you, Principal Singleton. I don't know about anyone else on this call, but I think I would really like to be part of the Ramily and go back to middle school. It sounds like such a fun place to be, and you have created this really special environment for kids to show up and feel like they belong and have engaging curriculum. It is truly remarkable everything that you all have accomplished under your leadership. So thank you, thank you, thank you.
I appreciate it.
Jaron, if we can go to the next slide. I love the fact that we got to highlight and spotlight Roton Middle School today, and we are continuing this trend of spotlighting Norwalk Public Schools as at our next Talk Tuesday on March 24th, Deputy Superintendent Sandra Fayos will be joining us about kind of the systemic approach to attendance and engagement that Norwalk has taken. So we've seen this kind of granular level at the school success level, and then thinking district wide how that has also come to be. So we really encourage you to come on March 24th to hear more about the good work happening in Norwalk Public Schools. So as always, thank you to our participants, our presenters, our partners at CSDE, and I hope everybody enjoys this lovely burst of spring sunshine today, and we look forward to seeing you next time. Take care.